Welcome to today's Academic Advisor Forum. This is the first Academic Advisor Forum for the fall semester. My name is Ross Hawkins. I'm the Director of the Academic Advising and Transfer Center. Today, we have several members from our leadership team from the Office of Admissions to present to us. Before we get started with the session, a couple quick announcements. One, this session today will be recorded and posted on the Mo State Advising YouTube channel within a week. So if you know of individuals who could benefit from the information being shared today, please let them know that they can hop on to the Mo State Advising YouTube channel early next week, and they will be able to watch this recording. I also wanted to mention that our next advisor forum will be on Thursday, September 26th. Again, like all of our advisor forums from 12 to 1. That advisor forum will be from individuals from the area of institutional effectiveness to talk about BESI reports. So those BESI reports are going to be made available in the advising notes data block. And so how to incorporate using those BESI reports into academic advising as we meet with first-time new and college students. If you wish to receive Master Advisor credit for today's session, if you haven't already, please enter your name and your department in the chat feature, and we will get that recorded. With that being said, again, welcome everyone to the first advisor forum. Welcome our colleagues in the Office of Admissions. I will turn it over to Matt. Matt has just recently assumed the Director of Admissions position. So from the advising community, Matt, congratulations on your promotion.
I appreciate that, Ross. It's day 11, and we are living the dream, truly, in admissions. Give me just 1 second, folks. I'm going to share screen, and we will get going. And just to confirm, is everybody seeing the PowerPoint?
Yes.
Okay. So this is our standard admissions presentation slide deck, and I love it so much. It is a fundamental part of my life, so I wanted to use it for this particular presentation. Before we do jump in, a few housekeeping notes. I will reiterate, Ross said, what we hope to provide today is just kind of an overview, a peek behind the curtain, if you will, into admissions, and particularly some areas where our role in admissions and your role in advising might overlap. So that is certainly what we hope to accomplish today. I will warn you that some of us, and I'm mostly pointing at myself, are not wired for brevity. Doing anything quickly is not necessarily my specialty, but I will try to keep this, my particular portion, short and snappy as best I can. We in admissions love, and I will say love, a lively Zoom chat. In fact, a running joke in admissions is that there are two meetings, what's being said and what's being chatted, and generally we just try not to look at the chat. But in this case, we want your questions. If there is something that we can help with or something that you're curious about, please throw it into the chat. We will answer as many of those as we can live. And then if we need to follow up, we can definitely do that as well. And then because we do have 5 staff members joining us today, and thank you, 5 staff members of admissions for joining, I guess 4 with me. We're going to go ahead and just do introductions in that case before each section. So it's kind of relevant to that person's particular topic. One last thing, meant to do this at the very beginning. Thank you to you folks. Well, first, thanks to Ross and thanks to Campbell for having us and giving us this opportunity. But also, thanks to the advisors joining. We know there are a lot of things you could be doing with your lunch hour, and we appreciate you spending some time with admissions. So again, introductions. I'm Matt. I've been at Missouri State Admissions for 7 years at this point. I was interim director of admission for 2 months and am now director of admission, as I said, for 11 days. And I'm excited for this role, excited to work with everybody, and excited to work Missouri State towards meeting our enrollment goals. We recently revitalized our mission statement, and I know it's hard to get excited about a mission statement, but there are a few points from here that I want to emphasize that we at admissions take very seriously and understand as part of our role. And one is that we understand the importance of the work that we do. We think that Missouri State is an incredible, incredible place, and we want it to be all that it can be. But we know that that takes success from admissions. That takes enrollment success to happen. And our work changes not just the institution, but it changes students' lives. And we're never going to take that for granted. Like I said, we know that for Missouri State to thrive, we need to thrive, and we're always going to take that seriously. And we also take pride in being the front door to the university, that we believe an incredible experience at Missouri State begins with an incredible experience with admissions. And so, again, we understand just the importance and the weight that is on the work we do because it impacts everything else that happens afterwards. Now, in terms of kind of just the general setup of our office, we have a big office, and I'm going to show the org chart here in just a second. But think of our office kind of as having two halves. There's the recruitment half. There's an associate director over that half. That's currently me. I'm a man of many talents. And the recruitment side of things it's numbers. It's make the numbers go up, more applications, more admits, more deposits, more enrollees. So we are constantly working on that on the recruitment side. And then there's the equally important operations side. And Ben is going to tell you more about that. But that's the systems, the data, the student information, all of those necessary logistical steps that a student needs to complete to become a bear. The operations team is critical. It's getting that information and getting students through these processes. So again, Ben will share more, but we have kind of those two halves that I think work pretty darn well together. Mentioned we have a big office, so that's part of what I guess I want to emphasize today is our scale in admissions. So this is a slightly dated org chart. It's from July, so it still had me as interim director, and you can see I'm still associate director there as well. But when we're fully staffed, we have 25 full-time staff members, we have 4 part-time staff members, 3 graduate assistants, and then if you count our tour guides, we have well over 100 student employees. So it is a big operation in admissions. There is a lot going on, and again, a big responsibility to the university. And just want to make sure emphasize that sense to everybody that it is a pretty large undertaking in our area. Not going to bore you with all of my day-to-day. I think the obligatory joke is that my job is to go to meetings and prepare for meetings. In fact, Ross, we got a nice 2-hour meeting just the other day. But really, for me, the metaphor for the director is the conductor of the orchestra. We have an incredibly talented team. As I mentioned, it is a large, talented team, and they all have their own roles to play to help us reach our goals and serve students. And I think the director is there to help them be successful, make sure they have what they need, make sure they're supported, make sure communication is happening in all directions, internal and external. So again, I think my job largely is conducting, but also whenever I can, staying out of the way and letting our team do their work because, again, they are phenomenal. For scale, my numbers are only FitNick. Bart may talk a little bit more about transfer numbers. And I guess just to make sure everybody is on board, FitNick is first time new in college. That is the term we use for what traditionally would be referred to as a freshman incoming student. But for 2024, FitNick, we had a little over 12,000 applications for admission. We admitted over 9,000 of those applications, and then we had nearly 3,000 enrollment deposits. So that's kind of the next step in the process at each level, and at each level, the student making more of a commitment to attend Missouri State. But again, it's a big operation, and our goal in recruitment, obviously, always is to make that number grow every year. So what goes in to recruiting a class to Missouri State? I think the thing I want to make sure I emphasize first, and I'm sure everyone understands this, it's that there are a lot of things that are out of our control. At the end of the day, there's that running joke that it's the decision-making, at least for FitNicks, of 18-year-olds. And they're going to have a lot of priorities. They're going to have their own needs, their own wants. They're going to have their own conception of Missouri State's brand, the academic program that they're interested in, the athletic program they might be interested in, who's influencing them, what their parents think, what their high school counselor thinks, where their best friend is going. There's so many pieces of that puzzle and so many pressures on students that, again, we don't control. at admissions. And what obviously we try to do is put the best foot forward for the university, provide incredible customer service, and at least if nothing else, feel good about the work we've done, even if a student does decide not to attend Missouri State. We have historically referred to spring as breakup season. So what do we do though? Billions of emails. When you take the number of emails we send and then the number of students they go to, truly millions of emails. A lot of those individually from our staff, but also even more from Slate, our incredible CRM, which Ben might talk about. Some of you may have some familiarity already. Hundreds of thousands of mailed pieces. To give you a sense of scale, just our invite postcard for our fall showcase, November 2nd, by the way, is 18,000 postcards. So that shows you the scale of what we're doing in terms of some of our mass mailings. Tens of thousands of calls, text messages through Slate, but also through Google Voice and through our own phones here in the office. Nearly 1,000 high school visits and college fairs in 8 different states all year round. Again, an example of the scale of what we do when we print our travel brochure, which is our primary high school visit and college fair piece. In the fall, we print 24,000. And it's not uncommon that in the spring, we're needing to print more to get through the cycle. So that just tells you, again, some of the scale that we work with. And then obviously, the work of everyone, our team, but your teams as well, our partners on campus, financial aid, residence life, recruitment, everybody has an impact. In fact, I've spoiled my next slide. Who does admissions collaborate with? Anybody? Oh, this is my interactive portion. I want everybody to throw in the chat. Who do you think admissions collaborates with? Oh, Katie Shawley, admissions alum, nails it. First response. It's everyone. We are working obviously with everyone on campus, but also our partners off campus, community college advisors, high school counselors, college access organizations. We want to have phenomenal relationships. We want to have phenomenal connections. We want every possible person, when they think of Missouri State admissions, to think that those folks are kind, they are helpful, they are enthusiastic, they're service oriented. Like, we need the good vibes. We want good vibes. Because again, recruitment, everybody plays a part. Students visit campus, the faculty or the advisor they meet with, or the grounds, or custodial work, or meeting with financial aid. Any different number of people could have a direct impact, but also everyone has an indirect impact because the incredible experience we create is then filtered through and shared by their friends and other students they know, by their tour guide, and it just is a compounding thing. So we need everybody on board to be successful. And our goal certainly is to be incredible collaborators that you folks want to work with. Ross did ask me just to mention a little bit about post-admissions communication. This is for FitNix. Bart will talk more about transfers. I don't go into a whole lot of detail. If there are specific questions you folks have, certainly throw them in the chat or follow up with me. But in terms of our post-admissions communications, we generally will have 2 goals. One is to create, again, positive emotions. We want students to feel welcomed, involved, excited, and enthusiastic. We want them to feel supported and feel like Missouri State is going to be a place they are successful. So we want to create good vibes with our communications for admitted students, but we also want to share information and we want to share calls to action. So for instance, if we want to make sure a student knows your next step is to pay the enrollment deposit, and this is how you do it. Or your next step is to register for SOAR, and this is how you do it. As mentioned here, we do handle a lot of communication. In fact, the lion's share of communication for orientation and transition programs regarding SOAR does go out of Slate, our CRM, and then we also handle a ton of admitted student communication for financial aid. But I do think that final bullet is important. Residence Life, we do work with them some using Slate, but in general, Residence Life does handle their communications. So that's an important distinction to know. There may be some cases where if you have questions, they may be a better source, but you can always start with me. And finally, we understand and we appreciate we at admissions are the first line of retention. It's our admissions policies, our admissions requirements. It's making sure the students we admit are prepared to be successful here on campus. So that's job one. Example, we're looking at some admission requirement policy changes but we're making sure we run those by student success. We run those by academic leadership on campus so they're aware, because what we change can have downstream effects on the entire academic experience. It's working with the AATC, working with Kim, the supplemental application process, and the Bear Launch program, being good partners, being good collaborators there, and just generally communicating, collaborating, making sure whether it is the AATC or it's student success, everybody's on the same page. And again, we're making sure students are set up to be successful, they have the knowledge they need, because again, we understand that retention puzzle starts with us. So that's what I've got. I'm going to hand it off to our ringer, the man who really needs no introduction, the presenter of presenters, Mr. Benjamin P. Metzger.
As Matt said, my name is Ben Metzger. I'm one of the associate directors in the Office of Admissions. And in my presentation, I'm going to try and give information about what we do, and then maybe also kind of give, Matt, you can go ahead, and also give information about just key points that you might find useful. So I think at its most basic, admissions operations is enforcing and applying rules and policies and procedures. There's lots of rules. We try and keep them all straight. Today, I'm going to try and put everything together in a way that's coherent and hopefully makes sense. We'll see. If I don't do that, please ask me questions. I'm happy to answer them. So on my next slide, I'm going to start working through the different things that we do. First, we receive undergraduate applications. We receive applications in two main ways. One is through Slate. Matt mentioned Slate. It's the best CRM software that's really available to manage undergraduate applications. Another way that we receive applications is through the Common App. However, it's worth pointing out that we only collect Common Apps for freshmen or FitNic students. We don't use the Common App to collect transfer applications for various student experience reasons. We process applications for various different types of students. We process applications for first-time new in college students. Those are students who are in high school or have graduated from high school and have never attended college since graduation. We also process applications for transfer students. Those are students who have any post-high school college credit. One subset of students that's worth pointing out are what we call TR24s. These are students who are transfer students, but they have less than 24 transferable hours post-high school. They're worth pointing out because their admission requirements are different. They actually have to meet the admission requirements for freshmen, first-time new college students, and they have to go through SOAR. So that's students with less than 24 transferable hours. Finally, we make admission decisions for readmits. These are students who attended Missouri State previously as degree-seeking students. On my next slide, we receive and process transcripts. So we receive and process transcripts from high schools and from colleges. We put transcripts in the various systems we use. High school transcripts actually only go into Slate, but we do are intentional about putting college and university transcripts into both Slate and Banner. And the reason why we do that is we want to give academic advisors the opportunity to look at that college or university transcript and see it kind of in its original format. We receive lots of transcripts throughout the year. We try and process as quickly as we can. There are times that we might have backlogs. One example would be when we return from Christmas or winter break. We have a real backlog of transcripts and it takes us time to work through that. We receive transcripts through lots of different channels. Examples would be through Parchment or Clearinghouse, which are electronic transcript services. We also receive transcripts through the mail, even hand-delivered transcripts in sealed envelopes. We do upload ACT and SAT scores. Those go into both Slate and Banner. Obviously in Banner, they're there to allow students to meet prerequisite requirements for classes. We try and automate those processes as much as we possibly can. It should be fairly quick once a student has ordered a transcript for it to end up in the systems that it needs to go into. I will say that sometimes a student orders a transcript and it doesn't get added to their record because there's a mismatch between the name on their application and the name on their score report. If you ever encounter that, please have the student, or you can contact us yourself. We will do our best to find those two kind of mismatched records, connect them together, and merge those records together so that the student scores are connected with their student record. We also make decisions for students. We make decisions for transfer students and freshmen. It's worth pointing out that and readmits, and when we make decisions for transfer students, we evaluate their transfer credit at the same time that we make that decision for them. We also then send out and we notify students of the decisions we've made. And it's worth pointing out that for transfer students, we try and tell them the name and contact information of their academic advisor in their admission letter. We also evaluate transfer credit. Like I said, we do that for transfer students when we make an admission decision for them. It's actually not the same for freshmen. We don't require transfer or college or university transcripts as we're making decisions for freshmen. They can send us those transcripts to us after we've made that decision, but we do require those transcripts at the point of admission for transfer students. It's our evaluators who evaluate transfer credit. We're going to talk about them more in a minute. And the next thing is we maintain transfer equivalencies. So our evaluators evaluate transfer credit from schools that are regionally accredited. That transfer credit, once we evaluate it, can be seen in the transfer equivalency guide. I think Bart is going to talk about that a little bit more, but it's a place where people can go and see how we've evaluated courses that we've seen on other students' transcripts. We also manage the TCRP system. That's the Transfer Credit Reevaluation and Pre-Approval System. I'm not going to actually spend a lot of time talking about this because there's going to be another forum later this fall, and I think actually we're going to get in the chat a link to the forum registrations. So there's going to be another forum in the fall where we're going to spend more time, detailed time on talking about the TCRP system. I'd encourage you all to attend that. The presenter will hopefully do a great job. Finally, on my last slide, we have evaluators who do a whole lot of the work that I've just listed. We're actually going to put this same information in the chat because I'm going to encourage you, if you have questions about admissions decisions or transfer credit evaluations, please contact them. They are each assigned a different section of the alphabet, and we do that to split up their work and make sure that their work is distributed evenly. They're all experts on what they do, and they're a great resource for you if you have questions about anything that I've talked about. You can also contact me directly. Thanks for your time.
Next, oh, okay, you already did it. All right. Well, my name is Bart Tibbs. I'm the Assistant Director of Admissions, and I work specifically 99% of the time with students who are transferring into the university. I also have a colleague named Hannah Henroyd, who is an admissions counselor who works directly with me now to recruit our transfer students. So it's great to have a team here through the admissions office for that. And if you're wondering, when you're looking at your screen, I'm the one on the left. That's Bart. Okay. So next slide, please. All right. Now, this is a slide that I'd say almost every presentation that I do, I will include this slide. One, because transfer students don't always feel like they are a vital part of a campus community on the four-year campus. Some of our colleagues at other colleges and universities don't provide transfer students I think the importance that they deserve, but they are realizing it that transfer students are very important to their campus communities too. As you can see from some of our numbers here, how important they are with just the numbers that they equate to for our campus community. With that, one of the perks that I always like to mention too is that last bullet point is where those students get to register with our current students based upon their number of credit hours that they've got. Not every campus will do that, so that is very important. Another thing about this on this slide too that I like to point out is the picture that you see. This was taken very recently at the Transfer Ice Cream Social, which was held on Saturday before classes start. We had a little over 60 transfer students in attendance to that program. So we went through a lot of ice cream, and it was good. Campbell was there. We also had another representative from our office from the honors or I should say the Tau Sigma honors fraternity for transfer students was there. And if you look to the far right, the guy standing up with his hands in front of him, yes, that is President Biff. Thank you for the point out there. He was there. Also, Dr. D. Cisco, close to him too, was there. They both stayed pretty much the entire time for that event and got a chance to interact with our transfer students. So really a top-down focus. I'm very appreciative of that. And it was a lot of fun too. Let's go to the next slide. So as Matt was mentioning earlier, we have a flood of communications that go out to FitNICs, but also to transfer students too. And I'm focusing a little bit more here on the admitted transfer students, because of some of the same topics that a incoming freshman might have would also be pertinent to our transfer community too. The first one, Ben kind of mentioned that we send out a letter, an email when students are admitted. So in that contact, it is basically a note from our esteemed director of admissions saying, congratulations, we're glad you're a bear. Here's your bear pass number. And also, this is your contact for your academic advisor. I will give a plug to Ross because he hounded on us for a few years to see if we can get that included. And a lot of work went into that to make it so. What's very important for us is that information is always accurate. So if you ever know of a change for an advisor specific for transfer students, please reach out to the AATC or to us so that we can accommodate that change. I know in the chat, I think we'll have a link to our transfer center here coming up a little bit. That's our hub for our transfer our transfer information for students looking at coming into us. It'll also have links within that to include our admitted student checklist, which we send out in this email. We send it out on a hard copy for students, but it's something that you can also look at and review too, to see what we tell our transfer students and resources we have on campus. It doesn't have everything, but it has a lot. We will also emphasize the equivalency guide. Ben mentioned that a little bit earlier too. That equivalency guide is used by our transfer crew pretty much daily with our communications and phone calls and even emails with our transfer students. What you may not know is our office, specifically Lori Day, is the keeper of that equivalency guide. So when a student says, well, this class is not on there, they can let us know that, and we can evaluate the class. Lori, can evaluate that class, and we'll add that then to that equivalency guide. So that's how we get the new classes that are on there. Now, ideally, we want to take those classes off an official transcript. And vast majority of the time, that's the way it happens. But sometimes you get that persistent student who wants to know information and it's not added on there. And then we work that in as soon as we can for that. Some of the items that are shown on this page as those emails that we send out, when you see scholarships financially, it's pretty general. These communications are short. We've learned not to be wordy in our written communications, not necessarily our verbal communications. Okay, but in written communication, it's there succinct, so they can get onto the links they need. Again, pretty general. One of the ones you see on there is transfer orientation. If a student hasn't completed that transfer orientation, we automatically have resources that will kick in and send a communication to that student. Say, hey, don't forget to do this, and here's how to access it for that. Even information on, hey, you're looking at registering for classes. Here are some basics, some Q&A on that. And we'll even give them a link to our list of our transfer advisors there too. And of course, we have something for students who are coming as a transfer student who are undecided on those majors. Many of you have probably encountered them. I know that they do go through the AATC initially and then get sent over to the specific colleges. And finally, one of my favorites is the last one. The Springfield Basic is Home, because it's addressing those feelings transfer students have. Yes, they've got experience, but they don't have experience at Missouri State. It is a change, whether it's from OTC to MSU to West Plains or to from Crowder, whatever, it is a big change. And so we're just acknowledging that and saying it's going to be okay. Let's look at get you involved on campus and looking at some resources for that. And finally, we like to talk about visiting campus. So let's click to the next slide. We do have some transfer specific events that we do pretty much each semester. The transfer visit days, this is an opportunity for our students, our transfer students to come to campus. We'll do a transfer centered presentation. Usually Campbell will attend that. Hannah from our office will attend that. And we'll give our experiences and try to personalize that as much as possible. And then we take them to lunch and do a tour, have a tour of campus too. And you'll be surprised the type of questions we get at that lunch because it's unstructured and they feel more at ease. So we really get a lot of good business done over those lunch hours. I'm impressed with that. And a couple other things, the VIP days. This is what respective colleges will do in the spring semester. I'll say, for example, the College of Agriculture will send communications to students who are interested in anything with ag. On that day, they can come to campus, presentation, but more importantly, they get to interact with faculty and many times advisors, ideally with you as advisors. They might be able to even get that checked off their list so they can register for classes. And then Showcase, which we'll be talking about a little bit later on, we have some events for that. I put on there the QR code, so if you want to click it or whatever, I think Campbell also put the visit site in our chat, but that takes you to all things going on our campus through the admissions office. And I guess with that, go Bears.
Hello, everyone. I am glad to be able to chat with you all today. My name is Sean Kliethermes. I hope you'll excuse me just a bit. My voice is recovering after some illness from last week, and so it goes out occasionally. I've actually got a cough drop in right now, hopefully to help me get through this. But it is a pleasure to speak to everyone today. I'm particularly glad to be able to speak to this group because, as we'll talk about here in just a minute or two, one of the largest parts of my job is to coordinate our campus visits, both regular visits and group visits. And we know that in many cases, especially with regards to those weekday sort of visits, when students have appointments with academic areas on campus, many times they're meeting with you all. And so it's always a pleasure to be able to chat with you all. And I'm hoping to be able to provide some perspective and answer any questions that you might have today. Matt, would you mind advancing the slide? So here is didn't choose to bring in the artwork. Interesting. Yeah, all the artwork is missing. Weird. I had cool photos, but they're not there. In any case, the areas of responsibility, things that I am particularly that I work with on a daily basis, as I mentioned, I oversee the campus visits for the Office of Admissions. These would include what we would call regular visits, the ones that are scheduled for Mondays through Saturdays, Monday through Friday, most of the year, and Saturdays typically on non-holiday weekends in the fall and spring semesters. Those visits are at a variety of times. We typically have 3 regular presentation and tours, essentially on Mondays and Fridays. And on Tuesdays and Thursdays, we tend to offer 2 of them. And Saturdays, typically a couple of visits in the mornings. We'll talk a little bit about that more on the next slide. I also have returned to supervising group visits for the Office of Admissions. This is something that I did previously, and then I am responsible for those again. And for group visits here, we're talking about whenever a school, wants to bring in a class of students, or maybe somebody wants to has a particular, a particular class that's being taught, and that teacher wants to bring in a group of just those students, or maybe an outreach type program is visiting campus, upward bound, those sorts of things. Those fall under the category of group visits, and we typically offer them on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. They are very popular. We have lots and lots of students that visit us through that particular way, and so there is some coordination involved in that. I also, to some extent, am working with special visit days. This is sort of an initiative that we've been doing to some extent for a few years now, but it's something that we're kind of ramping up and experimenting with. This is the idea that there are groups out there, interested in specific areas, maybe a particular major or college, or they're from a certain geographic area. And we want to try to provide a group visit experience for them on a specific day where we can kind of cater the events of that day, the events of the visit, to that particular group. So, for example, this coming October 18th, we've got a visit day, an out-of-state visit day, basically, where we are marketing to students who aren't from Missouri, inviting them to come down and talk about advantages and opportunities that they can experience even though they are from the state, financial aid opportunities, that sort of thing. And then another thing related to the campus visit program, I serve as the advisor to the university ambassadors. Of course, those are the students that help out the Office of Admissions by giving tours and helping out at recruitment events and other things that the university asks of them. Their number varies a little bit depending upon the time of the year. Right now, we've got about 90 of them. After we do hiring here later on this semester and start training them in the spring, we may have anywhere from 130 to 140 or so. So lots of students that I get the privilege of working with. In addition, and also sort of related to campus visits, I'm headquartered here in the Welcome Center, as are my colleagues Kristin and Bart, and I'm kind of the de facto building coordinator, which means that when something goes wrong in the Welcome Center, which sadly isn't as rare an occurrence as one might hope, I'm many times the person who contacts somebody about it, puts in the work request, that sort of thing. But generally just tries to keep the building up and running and functional for these various visits that we bring to campus. And finally, I also serve, as the person who is in our office in the area of recruitment of high achieving students. So in particular, I work with the Honors College to help send out invitations to Honors College students and messages encouraging them to accept their Honors College invitation. We host a number of things, including we typically have a webinar at one point. We have an Honors College or a high achieving student kind of recruitment day, Scholars Visit Day, I think is what we call it. I also serve as recruitment coordinator for the Presidential Scholarship. Of course, the deadline for that particular scholarship is December 1st. That's the most valuable award that the university offers for incoming students. And part of my job is to try to convince students to apply for it, and then help out with the interview process that takes place typically the last weekend in January. So a number of areas that I'm responsible for. I thought I'd talk a little bit more today about the campus visit program. Matt, if you don't mind going on to the next slide. As I mentioned, we kind of divide campus visits up into two sort of categories. Regular visits, those ones that are regularly scheduled, if you will, and take place on weekdays and on most Saturdays in the fall and the spring. And then, of course, group visits, which we try to group in the middle of the week during the fall and spring. We actually offer them during the summer as well. You don't see those numbers on the particular charts that I included because there are very few in the summertime. Typically, group visits occur in the vast majority in the fall and the spring. And so here you see some numbers kind of broken up over the last few years. What these numbers represent essentially are the numbers of students that are coming on these visits. Okay, so these numbers don't include family members that accompany them. So if we go into that first set of numbers, you'll see, again, just the numbers of students. Generally 2 to 3 people. There are 2 to 3 people on each individual visit. So each student typically brings 1 or 2 other people on average with them. So those group sizes are about 2 to 3. So if you take those numbers there that you see and multiply any of them by 2 to 3, that kind of gives you an idea of how many total people would be showing up each month or each year. And you'll see that there are quite a few. We get a lot of visitors here in the Office of Admissions. Same thing with those group visits. Those are the number of students, doesn't necessarily include chaperones or other people that would be accompanying them. If you look at those numbers, a few things are telling. Campus visits remain very popular. They are. There are certain times of the year when we tend to get very, very busy. And one of them is about to happen right now, October and November. Busiest time of the year, generally for regular visits, as well as for group visits. Actually, September, October, and November are always typically busy times. In fact, for group visits, I can tell you that it's not uncommon for every single available slot on a Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday in October and November to be filled up with group visits. I mean, we just max it out, every available opportunity. And then we even let a few more in if they beg us. As noted as well, those regular visits are filled with students, particularly in October and November. That's the busiest time of the year for students to visit. And also that means that they are asking for appointments with academic areas during that time frame as well. And you'll see that there are similar time frames when those occur in March and April, and to some extent February. Also tend to be very busy times for campus visits. And we know that those time frames, those months, tend to coordinate whenever academic advisors are most heavily involved in meeting with students and helping them plan their schedules for the next year. And it's one of those concurrences that happens, and it'd be great if they were spread out a bit more, that sort of thing. We know many times we are hitting you all hard right whenever you're at your busiest, and we sure appreciate it because the campus visit remains really integral to our recruitment efforts and to supporting our enrollment numbers at Missouri State. Matt, would you mind going to the next slide? Something we know these days is that the campus visit is different than it used to be for students many years ago. This is a time when students, they're not going to as many schools. They're not visiting as many schools as they used to. It isn't, students aren't just, no, I'm going to go to 6 dozen schools, see how they feel, and then sort of figure things out maybe in the spring. Students are being much more selective in terms of what schools they visit. They're not going to as many schools. They're going less to maybe sort of check them out casually, and more because they are looking to be persuaded. They are looking to narrow schools down. They're looking to come and have an experience that will make them say either, wow, this place is amazing, they are a top contender, or you know what, maybe I can mark this one off my list because I'm not as impressed as I thought I would be. And so thus the importance of the campus visit remains as critical as it was, and perhaps even more so since students are choosing to visit fewer. I've got a note in here about the niche this niche 2024 survey that was released just this week that notes that 83% of students who took a visit said they are enrolling at the college that offered the best visit experience. So again, the key takeaway, very important. And this year admissions is doing quite a bit of extra. We're I wouldn't exactly call revamping, but we're looking at the campus visit experience and trying out new ways to try to enhance it, to make it more exciting for students. We're changing up our admissions presentation, adding a student panel. We're looking at revamping some of the tour experience and how we conduct it. We're adding in additional things, lots of good stuff. I see that my time is getting tight, so I'm going to go ahead and stop talking here. But I do want to mention one final thing, and that is that we are looking for a university ambassador applicants right now. I'll put a link in the chat. If you all have good ambassadors, or excuse me, good students who you think would make great ambassadors, please encourage them to check us out, missouristate.edu/join UA.
All right, now y'all get me. I will go a little bit more quickly with my section so that we can have some time to answer questions out loud if anybody has any. So I am going to talk with you all about our big open house days and also some of our print communications that go out to students. So I'm going to start with the open houses. Part of my title, being assistant director for events, I get to oversee these large days. So we have some like primarily one event each semester, and we have different target audiences depending on the time of year to catch students when they're most likely to be researching colleges and determining where they might want to go. So in the fall, we always host a showcase, and our target audience for that event is current high school seniors. They are in the thick of their decision-making period, and also transfer students. We're going to invite students at any stage or grade level, but those are the students we are targeting particularly for a fall showcase. We'll host another showcase in the spring, and on that, during that semester, we focus mostly on high school juniors. They are about to begin their senior year. They are making decisions earlier on, maybe narrowing down where they want to apply, and so we really try to latch onto them. Transfer students begin with us every semester, so they're always going to be invited. And in the spring, we also have some yield events. Yield is for students who are admitted, who we want to keep with us, keep them on the hook. And if they're on the fence, we want them to jump onto our side and continue on with their last steps in the process. So those are our admitted student days. For the last few years, we've held those on Mondays in March and April. And then in the summer, we host 2 summer visit days now, one in June and one in July. Our showcases are on Saturdays. They're a big deal. Admitted student Mondays, and then summer visit days are Fridays throughout the summer. Our summer visit days have a broad target audience because we will have students who are rising seniors, just completed their junior year, who are looking. We'll have some who are about to start their junior year, who are already proactive in their search. And we have transfer students all the time, but we get students who maybe even just graduated and thought they were attending elsewhere and realized, oh, maybe it's not the right fit, and they want to come back and check out Missouri State again. So we'll have as young as 8th grade freshmen up to just graduated seniors all the way to adult students. So on the next slide here, I've got some data for you. Sean showed numbers for our regular visits, and what I've got here is broken down by semester. So spring, summer, and fall with those same events that I just mentioned, and the totals are along the bottom. So you can see that we have as many, if not more, students who are attending event days as we do who attend regular visits throughout the academic year, throughout the whole calendar year, actually. So we've added a lot more events over the last 5 years. Pre-pandemic, we would have one showcase in the fall, one showcase in the spring, and one summer visit day. And in 2020, we changed a lot of things, obviously, and we had to increase the number of dates that we were offering for each of these different activities. So spring has always had one showcase, but the numbers in parentheses that you're seeing there, those are multiple instances of the same event in the semester. So we've had multiple fall showcases, multiple summer visit days, multiple admitted student days. But I think that the main takeaway for me is that we always have room to grow. We can always get more students to attend our visit events as we improve them and offer more activities. All right, so the last thing I want to mention is how we communicate to students. So Matt talked a little bit about all of the different forms of communication that go out from our office, emails and different things, but we do a lot with print publications. So I've got a few slides that really just have images to give you a feel for what students are receiving. We try to give them a broad perspective of what Missouri State is going to provide, both in content and information, but also in images. Like that's how they can imagine themselves here. And so we've, this year in particular, really scaled up the number of images that we're including in our publications. So Matt, if you'll kind of, I don't know, give a couple of seconds for each of the next 3 slides. This first one is our view book. You can see like there's the cover there. We've got a big main spread. Go ahead and go to the next one. This next slide here shows you some of the interior spreads. So these are 2 pages as you would fold the brochure. But again, a lot of student life. We're trying to show that excitement, enthusiasm, energy that they can experience here, but also some of just the chill things like students hanging out in a hammock. So again, this is the view book. We've got one more slide of view book images, and this is a few examples of some of the more content heavy information that we're sharing. So we want to share details about all of campus. We're recruiting for every program, every department, every college, but they've got their admission requirements, costs, scholarships, kind of all the details that they need to know, information about visiting campus and how to sign up. That's all included in this piece. It's about a 40-page brochure. It's a big deal. This is our largest one that we send out to students via postal mail. Okay, so next we've got an example of the senior ACT and SAT tabbed postcard. And I feel like if you are not a person who does print publications very often, that's like weird lingo. Tab postcard, what does that mean? But if you have received mail to your personal address and it's like a folded piece that has like a clear circle sticker folded over to keep it closed, that's a tabbed postcard. So it's not in an envelope. It has a mailing address. Like in this example, it's under pub. That line is where we will print their address. And so they can pop off that tab, unfold it, and they can see multiple panels. We also in admissions take advantage of the university's ability to use variable data printing or VDP. That is what you're going to see in kind of like those blank boxes under the bear statue. Those are places where we are inserting variable data. So first name is a great example. Also those blank boxes. When we are putting these together, there are different pieces of content that could fill those boxes based on what we know about a student. So here, academic interest is a variable, underrepresented is a variable. So if we know a student either qualifies for honors or doesn't, we'll put different information in based on their status. Okay, next one, Matt. After this one, we have our senior search postcard series. This is 2, you can see 2 of the postcards here. Our postcard series can run anywhere from 3 or 4 postcards in the series up to 8. It just depends on the student's status and grade level. So search is our attempt to get students to take action and move forward onto enrollment. So we are not spamming them. We are sharing really great information at a semi-frequent basis to try and get them to do things. We've got QR codes on here. We want them to meet these CTAs. So we try to have a balance again of images, graphics, infographics, and not just be really boring with postcard. We do send similar series to both sophomores and juniors to start their awareness of Missouri State early on in their high school career. Okay, and then the last one I'm going to show as an example is a transcript postcard. This is something that we send to students after they've applied if we are still missing their transcript. We can't make an admission decision until they send that to us. And so it's an easy form. Some high schools will require a student to sign off to have their transcript sent so they can get this card in the mail, recognize that we still need it, which is why they haven't heard back from us. They can sign it and turn it in directly to their counselor, and it'll get sent to us with all the instructions that the counselor will need to get that taken care of. So we're trying to push them through, whether it's recruiting them, trying to share the Missouri State information, but also moving them through the next steps by sending them reminders, physical reminders more than just an email. So those are the things that I had to share. We've got 6 minutes left. And so if you all have any questions, now is a great time to ask them. Feel free to unmute yourself. If you want to take yourself off of camera off, we'll see you, we'll smile, it'll be great. Drop them in. Otherwise, thanks for listening to all of us.
And I stopped the slide share, but I do have our contact info that I can put back up. So just wanted us to see everyone's face.
has anyone received any information from us? Like, because you have students of your own or you have nieces and nephews, like, is this a surprise to anybody? You're like, yeah, I've received a tab postcard. I know what that is. No, it's lunchtime. Everyone's like stuffing their face behind their camera. I understand. Yeah, Kelly.
I have a question. So sort of a selfish question, but still very interested. So the university ambassadors, do they have like, I mean, obviously I know students that I can certainly recommend. Do they have staff meetings or like other ways for, like, if there's a resource or something on campus that university ambassadors might be able to ask questions about? Is there a way to get information to those UAs? For example, academic success coaching?
Sure. So there are a number of things, a number of ways that we can make sure that ambassadors are informed about opportunities on campus. And I might tell you, it's always a little bit of a trick for us because we've got basically a 90-minute tour and a lot of information to cover during that time frame. But we want our ambassadors to be knowledgeable and to be able to provide information on their own and to be able to respond when asked about such services. And so first of all, you can always send the information to me and I can make sure it gets distributed to the office, or excuse me, to the ambassadors. We also sometimes have speakers come in. We meet basically every other week, and it's not uncommon for us to have someone stop by and maybe speak for 5 minutes or so about a particular office or program or service on campus. And we find that's also that's a good way to reach a lot of ambassadors. And then of course we can reinforce that with follow-up. And furthermore, we have some training sessions. They have to go on 2 training retreats in the spring semester as part of their training after they are hired. And that's a good way to reach ambassadors as well. So feel free to reach out to me and we can figure out the best way to get that information. We'd love to do so.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And Ross, just want to confirm with you, do you have, I'm going to put our emails back up, but do you have any closing comments? I don't want to eat into your exit, if you will.
No,
your dismount.
Please feel free to enter what you need to enter, Matt, in the chat. Everyone, thank you for attending today's academic advisor forum. As a reminder, it has been recorded, so please let your colleagues know that it will be posted on the Most Data Advising YouTube channel within 1 week. Admissions, thank you so much for presenting this information. Sean, Kristin, Matt, Bart, Ben, great job. I think this is very beneficial. And I think this group learned a lot today from what you presented on. So a big thank you from everyone in attendance. Everyone, enjoy the rest of your day, and hopefully we'll meet again at our next advisor forum on Thursday, September 26th.